Next is the pea or bean family, the Fabaceae. You may also hear the Fabaceae referred to by botanists as the Leguminosae. That's considered more or less an older term in Latin. Now, the pistil is always one, but in this case it is not compound, it's a simple pistil. And it again is going to have the floral tube surrounding it, but not fused to it, always separate from the pistil. The fruit is a bean pod or pea pod. So if you see a plant with a bean pod or pea pod, you know that it is in the bean family or the pea family. Now, the stamens are 10 generally, and from the top of the floral tube. Now, there are some tropical members that we're not really going to be covering in this course, but they will have maybe more than 10 stamens. But the ones you're going to be seeing will have 10 stamens. The petals are 5 from the top of the floral tube, and they are generally arranged in what we call a pea flower arrangement. A very specific way of how the petals are arranged and fold around each other, as you see in these cases. So if you see a pea flower, again, you know it's in the pea family. The sepals are small and from the top of the floral tube. In some cases, the sepals will actually be fused a bit above where they come off the floral tube, as you see in the red bud. The leaves are usually compound, and where they attach to the stem, as you see in this example, is that the base of the petiole is swollen. So a compound leaf with a swollen base of petiole again tells you that you have a member of the pea family. And not only that, you will find obvious stipules. So all those taken together give you the pea family. Next we have the Geraniaceae, or the geranium family. Pistil is 1, and in this case it's compound with 5 segments. And the thing that's really interesting about the Geraniaceae, as you see in this series, is that from the time of flowering to the time of fruiting, the pistil elongates very rapidly to form a long snout in what becomes the fruit. So here you have the elongating pistil shown in these series of photographs. The fruit has 5 nutlets, as you see here, and these nutlets are actually attached to a spring-loaded strand that's part of the pistil. So these nutlets that are spring-loaded strands is highly characteristic of the Geraniaceae. So there you can see in this picture where the strands have actually coiled up. The stamens are 10 in number, and their bases are fused in bundles. So there may be 2 or 3 that are fused at the base to make a little flat structure, another 2 or 3, and so on around the whorl. Petals are 5 and separate. The sepals are 5 and more or less fused near the base, but the tops look more or less separate. The leaves are usually lobed or dissected. And again, these leaves have obvious stipules. That's the Geraniaceae. Next is the Euphorbiaceae, the Spurge family, and this is a very unusual family. So the first thing that's really important about the Euphorbiaceae, or the Spurge family, is that the flowers are in what we call false flower heads. The flowers, along with bracts, form flower clusters that actually look like a single flower. There will be a flower, and that all that's in the flower is a pistil. Okay, and that pistil is going to be a single pistil with 3 sections, therefore a compound pistil. And the segments are going to be bulging, as you can see in the examples here. But that is really one flower that's inside a false flower. Okay, as that pistil develops into fruit, it is 3-seeded and then it forms a three-lobed capsule with really bulging lobes. So if you see a three-lobe capsule with bulging lobes and with three seeds inside, then you know that you've got basically Euphorbiaceae. Now we go to the stamens. Now in the family, the stamens can be one to many in a flower, but again, in these flowers we're going to be looking at here, there's only one stamen per flower, and that's all there is in the flower. No petals, no sepals. So you have like 5 flowers containing only one stamen each, and they're clustered together in a false head with a pistil-bearing flower. And that's surrounded by bracts, no petals or sepals. And the bracts look like the sepals. The petals are lacking, usually. Tropical members, we have petals, but in the groups we're looking at, petals are lacking. Sometimes there are little sticky glands at the tops of those fused bracts, and sometimes those will produce white petal-like structures that people think are petals, but they're not petals. So petals are lacking in this group. Sepals are 0 to 6. Again, in the family you may have up to 6 sepals, but in these plants we're looking at, there are no sepals, completely done away with. You have just the false heads of basically male flowers and female flowers stuck together, surrounded by bracts, and that is what looks like a flower. Finally, the plants have free-flowing milky sap, or sometimes there'll be a clear acrid sap, but generally, again, what you're looking at, you'll find a milky sap that you break the plant and the sap's just going to come flowing out rapidly. And you can see that here where these little pieces have been pinched off. There's a drop of milky sap at the base. So that is the Euphorbiaceae or Spurge family. Next is the Apiaceae or the parsley family. Here the pistil is one in compound and usually of 2 sections. In some members maybe more, but most of the ones you're going to be looking at will have 2 sections, and the ovary is inferior, as we see in this illustration of chervil. The fruit, I'm showing an immature fruit here, but when that matures, it will break into 2 one-seeded nutlets. Stamens are 5. You can see that in both these plants, the meadow parsnip and the chervil. Petals are 5. They tend to be pretty small and arise from the top of the floral tube, which is fused to the ovary. The sepals are small and at the top of the floral tube, and in some cases, as in the chervil, the sepals are so small they just appear to be almost like little bumps, hardly even teeth at the top of the floral tube. Flowers are in umbels, or sometimes the umbels are so congested that you actually have heads, but generally you will find umbels. And the leaves are compound with the base of the petiole wrapping around the stem. So that's highly characteristic. So if you see a compound leaf, especially with lots of little leaflets, and the base of the petiole wrapping around the stem, you know you have a member of the Apiaceae or the parsley family. Next is the Ericaceae, the heath family. Has a single compound pistil, generally with several sections in it, often maybe 5. Stamens are either 5 or 10. But what's really interesting about the stamens are the anthers. The anthers are attached to the filament like a hinge, and they don't split open down the sides like a typical anther. They open by pores that are at the apical tip of the anther, and this pollen gets sort of shaken out, actually by insects sort of vibrating the anthers. Petals are 5 and fused into generally a broad tube. Sepals are 5 and they are often small. Leaves are leathery. They tend to be curled under at the margins and have finely netted veins. So that's the Ericaceae. The Polemoniaceae, or the Phlox family. Pistil is one in compound. It has 3 sections in it, and you can see that in the enlargement, the inset of the pistil. You'll notice there are 3 distinct stigmas attached to the style. indicating the 3 sections of the pistil. Stamens are 5. So in this picture you see the flower has been split open lengthwise. So 3 stamens on one side, 2 on the other. Petals are 5. They form a narrow tube at the base, and then they splay apart from each other, or spread apart at the top, forming sort of almost a pinwheel look. Also, the petals, when you look at them in bud, have a characteristic twist that you could see. So again, that would give you a strong sense that this is probably in the Polemoniaceae, although there are a few other families with twisted buds. Sepals are 5. Leaves are opposite.